Welcome back to School Watch channel. It is great to be back, and this course is covering all the ins and outs of double cooking, whether that is just blanching and poaching, roasting, deep frying and braising. That is what double cooking is about, changing your textures through these cooking methods. Lesson 1 in double cooking, blanching or poaching. I've got a whole bowl of chicken wings here. I think they're a great way to show you lots of different methods of piecing together the different cooking techniques that you can kind of bring in and out of each other to create different textures out of the same ingredient. The first cooking technique is very, very simple, and that is blanching these wings. I'm going to put all of my wings in for a 2 or 3 minute boil or blanch in this boiling water or stock. I've actually got some chicken stock here because, hey, it will add more flavour to the wings themselves. So they can go or straight into my boiling hot stock. When I'm blanching chicken wings like I am today, or a bit of pork belly or some sort of fatty meat, duck breast, whole duck, it's all doing the same thing. You're tightening up that fat. You're sort of bringing any fatty impurities up to the top, so you get all this scum at the top of the stock. Essentially, that tightening up process just allows you to then dry your fatty meat out before you then move on to the second cooking process, whatever that may be. So if I just show you one winglet, from that instant heat or that seal of that boiling stock or water, that looks a lot more plump already than it did when it was raw. You know, so it kind of just sort of sits upright a little bit more. And that is exactly what you want from your blanch. I'm going to remove all of those, and during this session we will cook these blanched wings in various different ways. The traditional method of cooking, the sort of steamed basket of chicken's feet that you get in a dim sum restaurant, that dish is the epitome of double cooking because it goes through a blanching process, a drying process, deep frying, marinating, braising, and then cooled again to then steam to finish, which is, I find, fascinating. I've swapped the chicken's feet out with chicken wings, mainly because not everyone likes chicken's feet. I get it. And wings are much more readily available, and everyone loves chicken wings. I mean, if you don't love chicken wings, there's something wrong with you. Right, I've taken the majority of the wings out. These 5 winglets I'm going to leave in here to continue poaching as opposed to just blanching. Blanching is like an immediate, like, seal using hot water or boiling water. Poaching is a longer process to be able to cook your meat through or your food through, and also soften, allow that meat to kind of tenderize over that time of cooking through poaching. With chicken wings like this, they take a minimum of, let's say, 10 minutes, but 20, 25 minutes is really as far as you need to push them. The longer you poach something and the slower you cook it, the softer that meat will become, and the more likely it will then fall off the bone. Now, when you're poaching your meat, I don't like to waste when I'm cooking at home or cooking at all, anywhere, to be honest. And the stock that I'm boiling it in, or any water, over time, if you're cooking a lot of meat, it will essentially kind of make a natural stock anyway. So make sure that you skim any of that scum off the top of that boiling water. We're going to let these 5 or 6 chicken wings poach for at least 10 minutes. And whilst we're doing that, we'll start to flavour this stock, this water, which will also in turn flavour the chicken. So I've got a whole load of fennel seeds here. These are all like whole spices that make up 5 spice essentially. So fennel seeds, star anise, I don't need all of that, like 5 or 6, a couple of cinnamon twirls, about 4 or 5 cloves, I've got some fresh bay leaves here from my bay leaf tree outside. They can go in. Sichuan peppercorns, not highly essential, but why not? Let's add some flavor to that as well. A little bit of numbing spice, but you get a mellow spice in a poaching liquid. Something to note when you're poaching, if I were to fry something like these Sichuan peppercorns or toast them dry in a dry pan, you'd get a very intense flavoring from these peppercorns. But when you're poaching something, you get all the mellower parts of what you're cooking will kind of impart flavor into the stock and the meat or whatever it's cooking inside. And whilst those wings are poaching, I'm just gonna chop up a whole load of ingredients ready for my various different dishes that I'm gonna go through in this lesson, this masterclass. So with the pickling liquid, I'm gonna marinate the wings in. I'm gonna use a little bit of chopped up garlic. I'm gonna use some of this pickled chili. It's like pre-pickled chili. You can actually buy in the Chinese supermarket. I love this ingredient. It literally is salt, water, garlic, cooking wine, and red chili. And that's pretty much like, it's an easy way to bring some added flavor to your dishes. Garlic here, I'm just gonna finely chop. I've got some ginger I'm just gonna finely chop up as well to go next to my garlic. Almost forgot what that was. And again, I'm just kind of bringing everything together so I can kind of take you through the core cooking processes rather than focus too much on the ingredients. My chicken wings are pretty much cooked, so all I've done is add a couple of good pinches of salt into the stock, and that's been boiling away for about 10 minutes. I'm going to quickly make up the pickling liquid for these poached chicken wings. So I've got some rice vinegar here. I need enough to cover, so I'm going to use the whole thing. I'm going to salt and sugar this, fair amount of salt, and then some sugar, similar amounts. Let that dissolve properly first and then have a little taste. You want a sharpness from the vinegar, but a nice balance of sweet and salty and sour. Before I then start to add any garlic or pickled chili or any other ingredients that you want to add to this pickling liquid. Good amount of saltiness, needs a bit more sugar. So let's go for double the sugar to the salt. Give that a mix through. Meanwhile, whilst that's dissolving, I can start to pick out my poached wings, which you'll notice when you're poaching anything, the fat softens very quickly. But I want these wings to be cooked through, but not too soft, because the traditional way of cooking this with chicken's feet is that it still has a bit of a gelatinous bite to it. The other strange thing about this dish for those who aren't used to it is that it's served usually cold. So the chicken's feet are cold pickled. So I'm going to pop them straight into some ice cold water. And as I said, all these wings have had is a poach. I've actually gone for about 3 to 1 sugar to salt. So 3 teaspoons of sugar, 1 teaspoon of salt in that. Let's say 200 to 300 mils of rice vinegar there. A whole load of chopped garlic. And then all of this pickled red chili can go into that pickling liquid. And then once your wings have cooled down, I'm just going to take the wing tips off just so it's a bit more presentable, but no reason why you can't pickle the tips as well. We'll just pop those in separately. And then whilst we're cooking the rest of the wings in various different double cooking method ways, then these will pickle and take in all that lovely flavor. I've got some Sichuan peppercorns as well, which will add flavor to that pickle. Why not? It's there. I've got some sesame oil over the top of my pickled wings. And then I'm just gonna douse that in the pickling liquid to finish this off. Here we go. That is poaching. Ta-da! Now I'm gonna go back to my pre-blanched wings. I could, in theory, have poached these chicken wings, much like I did for the pickled chicken wings, and then taken the wings, the fully cooked wings, out from the poaching liquid with all the salt and the extra spices, then come to the roasting for the second cook. And what that would have done is added more flavour and sort of soften the texture of the wings before I then finish it off for like not a crisp, but a sticky glaze from roasting. But I'm going to use the blanched ones. Either way, doesn't really matter. I'm just going to make up a quick sauce, and this sauce is more like a glazing sauce that I'll sort of wrap around the wings, and then we'll whack it in the oven. The oven's at 200 degrees C, a little bit of oil for some ginger and garlic, and then I'll use a bit of dark soy, maybe some Worcestershire sauce, and some honey or maple syrup, whatever I've got, to bring a very, very simple glaze together. So garlic and ginger work a treat, of course, half and half. Of course, everything's going to go into the oven. So, and in theory, if you think about this, like I'm bubbling up a sauce to get it to a good texture before I then wrap the chicken wings in and then pop it into roast. So really, this is triple cooked rather than double cooked, but it sits in the double cooked section because, as I said, it's piecing together 2 or more of these core Chinese cooking techniques. Rough quantities, similar amounts of dark soy, Worcestershire sauce, and honey to get a nice glaze around this. I might use a bit of Shaoxing rice wine, let's see. I'll have a little taste first before I get my wings wrapping around this sauce. Tastes lovely. Take a little tablespoon, again, 1 to 1 of Shaoxing rice wine. So 1 to 1 to 1 to 1, 1 to 1 to 1 to 1 to 1 to 1 to 1. Everything the same, all the same. Now, I want to get this sauce to a very, very thin, syrupy texture before I put some wings into it, so that it can then wrap around the wings, and then when they roast, you'll get a really lovely glaze around the skin or the fat of the chicken wings. It's got this lovely drizzling consistency, and whilst that's still bubbling up, you can then get your wings and wrap them around the sauce, and you can see immediately that that sauce sticks around that fatty meat, the skin of the wings. So you wrap those round. Now it really doesn't need much more than that to then go straight into the oven. 10-15 minutes and you'll get these lovely sort of soy glazed roasted chicken wings. Double cooked, of course. My roast chicken wings with that lovely soy glaze. It's taken actually about 20 minutes to get the glaze to a nice sticky point around the wings. And you can see they've got this lovely colour around the skin. These wings, as we know, they've been blanched in just some boiling water for 3 or 4 minutes to tighten up the skin, and they're now sitting here drying. And this drying process, especially when you're deep frying or frying, is actually really key. You want it to like cool down. You don't want it to be like sweating. You know, you don't want the skin to be sweating at all. You want it to dry as much as possible. I'm going to season these wings very, very simply with some salt, pepper, and some five spice, and that's it. And then we'll double fry these. So it's getting the double cook from the blanching and then the deep fry, but then if you double fry them, they'll go extra crispy. Bear in mind, these wings have only been blanched for a few minutes, so they're not fully cooked yet. So you do need to make sure that they cook through well on the first fry. Now the beauty of the double cooking process is when you have something fatty like chicken wing or chicken's feet or anything like that, the blanching process, that tightening up and that sort of removing of the impurities, but also you've sort of rendered off a little bit of the fat in the stock on the boiling water. What I'm doing with this cooking process here is you don't need any starch or cornstarch or potato starch to get a really lovely crispy bit of skin around that chicken wing, because it's plump enough and dry enough from that initial blanching and drying. My oil is very hot, so these are going to go straight in for that fry. If you want enough space in the oil to deep fry the separate wings well, 4 to 5 minutes on this initial fry before I then do the second batch, and then we can fry everything quite quickly after that for the double fry. The second deep fry, you do need to allow the wings or whatever you're cooking to cool and allow that oil to kind of dissipate before you then go in for the second fry. Double frying is just another way of double cooking to get that extra crisp finish around these wings. High heat for that second fry, and this is literally for texture, for that extra crispiness, because the wings are already cooked through from the first fry. So that in itself is the point of double cooking. We're using the different cooking methods to bring out different textures from the same ingredients, and that is the absolute key. That's why we double fry or double cook or triple cook or quadruple cook in so many different dishes in Chinese cooking. So after the second fry, you get this sort of bubbling sound changes in the deep frying, because the skin and everything is sort of dried out a lot more, you know, less of a fizz. Nice crispy wings with no starch, or down to the cooking process, that double cooking process. Just let the excess oil drain off there. I've got a whole load of pre-fried garlic here, and I'm just going to season that with salt and sugar for ease. And whilst the wings are still hot, we'll toss those in that mix. Ooh, this is like beachside food. Yeah, look at that. Get some pepper in there. Whole pile of fried chicken. Get a whole load of that seasoned fried garlic over the top as well. I mean, if you got that at the beach, you'd be damn happy. So we've had our blanched chicken wings, poaching, your deep frying, your roasting, all these core techniques of Chinese cooking that we're kind of piecing together through these double cooking processes. Braising your poached chicken is also a thing, or poached meat, any poached meat. And the initial sort of blanch, as I say, is tighten up the skin, it's done, we've learned that already. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to marinate the rest of these chicken wings with a sauce that's very similar to what you would get from the steamed or finished in steam chicken's feet in the dim sum restaurants that I'm talking about. And first thing I've got here is these fermented black beans. So these are salted, dried, preserved black soya beans, and they've got a very, very deep and salty preserved flavour to them. So they've just been soaking in cold water for 5-10 minutes, that's all really. That soaking brings out some of the excess salt. I'm going to mix it together with some chopped up garlic and ginger, and I'll give that a really sort of gentle push through with the bottom of my spoon, and that is just to make a rough, very coarse black bean paste. Really what braising is, you need to fry your ingredients first in your pan, and then even with sauce, it needs time to almost fry this sauce and caramelize around what you're cooking before you then add any liquid. You can put all the flavor into your meat and just marinate it, because it will get that fry, that initial caramelization around the meat if you're to do it all in one go. But most importantly, it's almost as if braising itself is a double cooking method in one pan. So I'll take half of this black bean paste mix for the marinade, and then we'll start to build up a sauce that we're gonna fry. This stuff here is the doubanjiang, the chili bean paste. So a couple of teaspoons, they're very heaped teaspoons of that will go in there. Some oyster sauce for savory, so I don't want it to be too sharp. I want the braising liquid to be very, very deep and savory in flavor. To follow that, but a bit more saltiness, some light soy sauce. Dark soy sauce to deepen the color of this braise. Not too much. 1 to 2 teaspoons is plenty. Shaoxing rice wine, 2 to 3 tablespoons is good, because I want it to have enough sort of time to caramelize around the chicken. And some sesame oil to go with that. Sugar, anything sweet. So a tablespoon, that's probably about 1.5 tablespoons of sugar. I feel like I need a little bit more to caramelize, so I'm going to use some of this maple syrup. Similar amount, 1.5 tablespoons of maple syrup. So that's 3 tablespoons of sweet stuff all together. And that sugar, along with the thickness of the oyster sauce, will allow this mix to really caramelize very quickly. I've got some of this pickling liquid as well from the pickled chicken wings. 3 or 4 spoons of that to balance out the flavor. You get this sweet, sour, spicy, salty, savory. Let's have a little taste. Ooh, yeah, that tastes great. And then with the rest of the wings, because there's so much flavor in that sauce, which is gonna kind of caramelize around the wings, I'm just gonna pour the rest of the Shaoxing rice wine into those wings. Give those a good massage through. But what you need is a little bit of oil, because even though there's oil in the chicken and there's fat in the chicken and there's oil in this sauce, the key is to make sure that the sauce hits your thick base pan with that little bit of extra fat and gets that instant bubble, that sizzling, because that will change the nature of that sauce very quickly, and it will start to caramelize a lot. And now I'm showing you the traditional method of these sort of the dim sum style chicken's feet, but using wings as my ingredient of choice today for this lesson. It's had its blanch or its poach, then it gets a dry and then a deep fry. I'll do half of them like that, and then half that just goes straight into the sauce. And you will see an ever so slight difference between the half that go into the deep fry and the half that are just going to go into this caramelizing sauce. And I want to show this so you kind of get the real detail of where or how far we can really push this quintuple cooking process, or double, what we in general call double cooking processes in Chinese cuisine. That's sealing the meat in the oil before it then goes into the braising liquid, whereas with these ones, they're just going to go straight into the braising liquids, right? There's no reason why you can't just braise your wings, especially your chicken, like I'm doing here. But if you want to get that sort of perfect finish, then the seal of the meat before it goes into the braising liquid will give you that more restaurant style finish. Now I'm going to try my best to keep the non-fried chicken pieces on one side and then braise the deep fried ones on the other. What that deep frying process does is that, of course, it's crisping out the chicken, but we're not creating a crispy chicken dish here. We're cooking a braised chicken dish, but it also kind of weirdly opens up the pores of the chicken skin, and it will allow that flavor of the sauce to really penetrate the skin and go into the meat even more over time. And you can see, even when I place these deep fried chicken pieces into that same sauce, how differently that sauce sits on the fried chicken skin versus the non-fried chicken skin. It sticks much more on the fried one almost immediately. That is why, if you are going for perfection using the double or quintuple or quadruple cooking method, I do touch more on braising in the actual braising course, but for this, all you need is to sort of caramelize that sauce for a good few minutes around the chicken before you then add your stock or water or whatever else, any other liquid, and you want it to be nice and sticky before that extra liquid goes in. I'm going to use the chicken stock from my poaching, and you want to make sure that you cover your chicken, bring it to a boil, and then let it simmer for at least 20 minutes. This has had about half an hour of braising time, and now the sauce is, what was really stock, has reduced right down, and what was the deep fry on this side of chicken here has a much darker color, but also the texture of the skin is automatically looks softer and more almost wrinkled from that deep frying process. So as much as I thought it was quintuple, it wasn't a quintuple. I think it was blanched, then dried. Yeah, I could say that's a cooking technique. I think the drying process is actually really important. So blanched, dried, then marinated and deep fried, and then braised. If these were chicken's feet, the final stage, which would be to then take these out, put them in the bowl, or actually just keep them ready for service in a dim sum restaurant before you then steam this dish to finish. As you can see from the pieces that I'm picking out here, these slightly more shriveled pieces of chicken, very different in color to the non-deep fried. Not to say that one or the other is going to taste better than the other, but what I'm talking about here is this, like these additional layers of cooking technique which really make up the basis of this course, this cooking course. So I'm going to put a whole load of sauce over these, and what the steaming process does, if you were making that sort of dim sum style steamed chicken feet or wings, it's almost like a gelatinous bite around the fat from the chicken. That this extra steaming process, the fifth part of the cooking process, is how we then finish the dish. Double cooking in Chinese is all about understanding how to get different textures from the same ingredients purely from the cooking technique itself. So these guys have steamed through, and you can see the skin has kind of shriveled up even more. The whole thing will be very, very soft, very tender, you know, and that is what the steaming process does. So I think what's interesting to see, if you put the two side by side, which, you know, it's exactly the same sauce, exactly the same flavor, but they do look very different in the way they have finished because of that extra cooking process. So I'm gonna go for a taste of these steamed, braised, fried, blanched wings, because it should really like completely fall off the bone. You can see that on camera, how that bone is literally just slipping off the rest of it. I'm glad I did this. It shows that the cooking technique, how it changes this fatty meat from sort of process to process or technique to technique, weaving in and out of the different core Chinese cooking techniques to pull just one dish together. You want or you like, have enjoyed this learning process with me, then give us a like, comment, let us know what else you want to learn or you want me to experiment with, because that is the whole point of cooking, full stop in my mind. Play with your food, try new things, test things out, see why and what these different cooking techniques do. Tastes like chicken feet.